Ever wondered what happens when a software test doesn't go as planned? What if the results are not accurate and misleading? Let's dive into the world of false positives and negatives in software testing. When it comes to software testing, accuracy is the name of the game. Every test run, every result, every piece of data is a crucial cog in the machine that helps ensure the software works as it should. But what happens when the cogs aren't quite fitting together? When the results aren't as clear-cut as they should be? That's when we encounter the realms of false positives and negatives. Imagine you're a detective, and your job is to find errors or bugs in the software. Now, a false positive is like a suspect who appears guilty but is actually innocent. The test indicates an error where there isn't one, leading to unnecessary investigations and wasted resources. On the other hand, a false negative is the crafty criminal who slips through the net. It's when a test fails to detect an error that actually exists, giving a clean bill of health to a faulty piece of software. Now, you might be thinking, why is it so important to understand these terms? Well, misinterpreting test results can lead to disastrous consequences. A false positive might lead to unnecessary work, but a false negative could be far more damaging, potentially allowing a significant defect to slip through into the final product. Understanding these terms isn't just about knowing the lingo. It's about being able to accurately interpret test results, make informed decisions, and ultimately create better software. It's about being a more effective detective, knowing when to chase a lead and when to let it go. So, in the world of software testing, it's not just about identifying errors, but also about understanding what type of error it is. Because when you're dealing with the complex and intricate world of software, every piece of information counts. So it's not just about identifying errors, but also about understanding what type of error it is. Imagine you're a shepherd and your job is to protect the flock from wolves. Now, what if a harmless dog is mistaken for a wolf? That's a false positive. In software testing, a false positive is when a test incorrectly indicates that a defect or issue is present. It's like our shepherd seeing a fluffy dog, mistaking it for a wolf, and sounding the alarm. Everyone rushes to action only to discover that it was just a friendly dog, not a predator. There was no actual threat, but resources and time were spent dealing with a non-existent problem. Now let's delve a little deeper into the implications of false positives in software testing. Just like the shepherd who mistook the dog for a wolf, a false positive in software testing can cause unnecessary alarm. The development team might get anxious and start rushing to fix a defect that doesn't exist. This could lead to stress, confusion, and a lot of wasted time. But it's not just about the immediate impact. False positives can also lead to long-term issues. For instance, if there are too many false positives, the team might start to lose trust in the testing process. They might start to question the accuracy of the tests and the reliability of the results. This could lead to complacency, with the team ignoring genuine issues because they think they're just more false positives. And then there's the question of resources. Every time a test returns a false positive, it means that the team has to spend time investigating and addressing a problem that doesn't exist. This is time and effort that could have been spent fixing actual issues or developing new features. It's like the shepherd spending his time chasing after dogs instead of watching out for real wolves. In addition, false positives can also cause delays. If a test returns a false positive close to a release date, it could lead to unnecessary delays. The team might have to spend time investigating the issue, pushing back the release date, and potentially disappointing customers. So as you can see, false positives can be quite problematic in software testing. They can lead to unnecessary alarm, wasted resources, loss of trust in the testing process, and even potential delays in product releases. It's essential for teams to be aware of the potential for false positives and to have strategies in place to identify and manage them effectively. Just like the shepherd needs to be able to tell the difference between a dog and a wolf, software testers need to be able to distinguish between genuine issues and false positives. It's not always easy, but with experience, knowledge, and the right tools, it's definitely possible. So, a false positive, like mistaking a dog for a wolf, can lead to unnecessary alarm and wasted resources. And in the world of software testing, where time and resources are always at a premium, it's something that teams need to avoid as much as possible. Now, imagine the opposite. A wolf is mistaken for a harmless dog and slips into the flock unnoticed. That's a false negative. Let's expand on this analogy. You're a shepherd, and your flock is your software. You have all these fluffy little sheep, your individual software components, each one functioning as it should, each one critical to the overall system. You're vigilant, always on the lookout for threats that could harm your flock. Now, what's your biggest threat? Wolves. These wolves are the bugs in your software, the glitches that can cause your system to fail. They're cunning and elusive, always looking for a way to sneak into your flock and cause havoc. So you have your trusty sheepdog, your testing system, to help you spot these wolves. But what happens when your sheepdog fails to identify a wolf? What happens when your testing system fails to detect a bug? That's a false negative. A false negative in software testing is when a defect or bug is present in the system, but the testing system fails to detect it. It's like a wolf slipping into your flock, disguised as a harmless dog. It's there, but you're unaware of it, and that can be dangerous. Why? Because a false negative gives you a false sense of security. You think your software is bug-free and working perfectly when, in reality, it's not. It's like believing your flock is safe when there's a wolf lurking amongst the sheep. This false sense of security can lead to problems down the line. It can cause you to overlook critical issues, delay necessary fixes, and potentially release a faulty product. It can cause your flock to scatter and your software to fail, and the consequences can be severe. In our shepherd analogy, a wolf can decimate a flock. In software terms, a bug can cause a system to crash, result in data loss, or even expose sensitive information. It's like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. So what can you do? You need to ensure your testing system is robust and thorough. It should be able to detect even the sneakiest of wolves, the most elusive of bugs. You need to be vigilant and proactive, always on the lookout for potential threats. Remember, a false negative is more than just a missed bug. It's a flaw in your testing system, a gap in your defenses. It's a wolf that slipped away, a threat that went unnoticed. And like a wolf in a flock, it can cause chaos and destruction. So don't let that wolf slip away. Make sure your testing system is up to the task. Stay vigilant, stay proactive, because the last thing you want is a wolf in your flock, a bug in your system, wreaking havoc and causing mayhem. So a false negative, like missing a wolf in the flock, can lead to catastrophic consequences. As a shepherd or a software tester, you want to minimize both false positives and negatives. But how? Imagine you're a shepherd. You have two concerns: wolves disguised as sheep, false positives, and wolves that slip away unnoticed, false negatives. Similarly, in software testing, you're looking out for alleged deviations, but they are features, false positives, and bugs that go unnoticed, false negatives. Now that we understand what false positives and negatives are, let's discuss strategies to reduce them. The key here is balance. Too many false positives and you're wasting time chasing down non-existent problems. Too many false negatives and you're leaving real issues unchecked. Firstly, let's tackle false positives. A common strategy is to refine your test cases. The more specific your test case, the less likely it is to produce a false positive. For example, instead of testing whether a button works, test whether it works under specific conditions. This way, you're less likely to mistake a feature for a bug. Another approach is to incorporate peer reviews. Having another set of eyes review your test cases can help catch false positives before they become a problem. A fresh perspective might spot a mistake or assumption you've overlooked. Now, let's turn to false negatives. One effective way to reduce false negatives is by increasing the breadth and depth of your testing. Covering a wider range of scenarios and digging deeper into each one can help unearth hidden bugs. Remember, the wolf that goes unnoticed is just as dangerous as the one in sheep's clothing. Automating your tests can also help. Automated tests are quick, repeatable, and can run at any time, making them ideal for catching false negatives. They can run through hundreds of scenarios in the time it would take a human to do one, increasing the chances of catching those elusive bugs. But here's the tricky part: finding the balance. It's easy to tip the scales too far in one direction, too many specific test cases, and you risk missing the bigger picture. Too much automation, and you might overlook the nuances a human tester would catch. This is where risk-based testing comes in. It's a strategy that focuses on areas of the software that are most likely to have problems or where bugs would have the highest impact. This way, you're making the most of your resources without sacrificing the breadth or depth of your testing. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate false positives and negatives completely. That's an impossible task. The aim is to minimize them, to keep them at a manageable level. It's a delicate dance, a constant balancing act. But with the right strategies and a keen eye for detail, you can navigate the treacherous waters of software testing, keeping both the disguised wolves and the elusive ones in check. So, like a vigilant shepherd, a good software tester strives to minimize both false positives and negatives. So, we've seen how false positives and negatives can impact software testing. But what are the key takeaways? False positives, those dogs in a wolf's shape, are test results that wrongly indicate a problem where there isn't one. They might seem harmless, but they can be quite the resource drain. You end up spending time, money, and effort chasing down a problem that simply doesn't exist. The danger here is that you may end up neglecting actual issues that need your attention. On the flip side, we've got false negatives, the wolves that slipped away. These are test results that incorrectly give you the all clear, missing an existing problem. The risk here is severe. You could release a product thinking it's bug-free, only to have users discover issues down the line. Not only is this damaging to your reputation, but it can also be costly to fix. The tricky part? Balancing between the two. It's like navigating a tightrope. Lean too much one way, you're swamped with false positives. Tilt the other way, you're blindsided by false negatives. The key is to understand the nature of both false positives and negatives, and to use this knowledge to adjust your testing strategy accordingly. Remember that false positives and negatives will occur, but they aren't necessarily a sign of poor testing. They're more like signposts helping you understand where your testing process might need tweaking. It's all part of the iterative process of software testing. And let's not forget the human factor. We're all prone to error, and misinterpretation can lead to false results. Encourage open communication in your team. Foster an environment where it's okay to ask questions, to challenge results, to learn, and to grow. Remember, understanding false positives and negatives is not just about identifying errors, but also about managing resources and mitigating risks. Happy testing!